So I'm trying to do a video here. Can you go chew your bone somewhere else? Anyway, I just recently did a video on anti-Semitism, and I got some responses that were quite interesting. Some people said, oh, Shannon, oh my gosh, Porg. Are you done? You done? Let me continue my video. Let's try that again. I recently did some videos on anti-Semitism. And when I mean videos, on my broadcast. On my broadcast, I had Pastor Chris Quintana come on. We talked about replacement theology. We talked about the dangers of replacement theology in the Christian movement. And we also talked about anti-Semitism from a very broad paint stroke. We covered a lot about arguments that people use in replacement theology to say that Israel is grafted out and we are grafted in as the church, that the covenant with them no longer exists, that the land isn't really their land, so on and so forth. If you're interested, go back to YouTube. I'm going to post my link so you can go back and you can check it out. In that broadcast, as we dissect things, people listen and people comment, and they said, you know what, anti-Semitism is not really as big of a deal in the church as you think. I beg to differ. Take a look at this.
Nationalism, for those who haven't followed it, is normally criticized and defended because of its interpretation of what biblical Israel is now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a super electric topic, both
Very sensitive.
theologically and politically.
Absolutely. Like the whole dispensational thing where it's like, okay, right, the old covenant still somehow sort of exists and there's still this, this distinction between Jew and Gentile out there. Like the whole New Testament talks about this, that no, that separation that existed in the old covenant, they're brought together as one in Jesus, who is the true Israel, the successful Israel, the Israel that's obedient and goes to the death and is vindicated by being resurrected. That old covenant, it's done. It's over, right? Those distinctions between Jew and Gentile, they're gone.
It says that only about 1,000 times in every book of the New Testament. So to come to the opposite conclusion does make you sort of wonder, like, have you read it?
Yeah.
And what about this? And how about this? The newest one, Greg Abbott from Texas, signing a bill basically stating, hey, we're not going to put up with any anti-Semitism and hate in this state. And he got these kinds of comments. So yes, anti-Semitism far and wide is still a big issue in the church because the church doesn't believe that the people that are currently inhabiting Israel are the real Jews. They believe they're phonies. And because of that, they've got this deep-seated hatred for those people. And they use excuses like, well, you can't take a DNA test in Israel and yada, yada, yada. They're part of the elite. They're the global elite. They run pedophile rings. They run Hollywood. They run all the major organizations that take advantage of people. They're into Baal and Molech worship. And my response? No kidding. No kidding. Since when in the Bible was Israel ever truly 100% all the time walking the straight and narrow? Never. Look at the prophets and them begging Israel and the people of Israel to do what God had called them to do. And they didn't. They gave themselves over to paganism. They gave themselves over to idolatry. And they gave themselves over to every demonic and nasty thing associated with it. From child sacrifice to bestiality and everything in between. They've always had a hardened heart and a stiff neck. They've always been a little bit deceitful. Let's go back to Genesis. Look at the whole, I'm going to cheat you out of your birthright thing. You know what I'm talking about. So here's the deal. Israel isn't perfect. And the Bible states that secular people were used in the rebuilding of the temple in the Old Testament. God can use secular people to bring Israel back into the land and rebuild the temple. He's not always going to use Jews or believers. So why is this so hard for us to understand that anti-Semitism and this hatred continues to creep into the church today? It shouldn't be. As a matter of fact, if we truly believed everything that we think and about them not really being the ones who are supposed to inhabit the land and everything else in between, that's for God to deal with, not for us to deal with. He says, I will bless those that bless thee, and I will curse those that curse thee. It's very simple. We need to be praying for Israel. We need to be praying for her inhabitants. We need to be praying for their salvation. And we need to leave all of the nitty-gritty, the sin and the paganism and the elite and the evil and the wickedness, to God. It doesn't mean we turn a blind eye to it. It definitely doesn't mean that we support it. It sure doesn't mean that we ignore it. But we don't judge his people by certain elite and global rulers' actions and start hating them and throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Very dangerous place to be. Thank you for listening to this Word on the Wire from me and, of course, from Porg.